Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Developer Dynasty here on our Wolverine Studios channel. Tonight, we are kicking off first access for Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 2025. So, we're going to give you your first look at the game here tonight. And then, when our stream ends, we will turn on everything in the web store, turn on the download link from the website, and you can go to wolverinestudios.com and pre-order the game. When you pre-order, you get a discount. You can use code EARLY10 at checkout and you'll save 10% for that pre-order discount. You'll also be able to download the beta immediately. And for anybody who wants to participate in first access but prefers to play on Steam, when the game is launched on Steam, if you pre-order the game, you can get a code there when the game is fully released. So now that we kind of know how it works, let's get into things. Welcome to everybody who's joining us in the chat. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box, and I will be happy to do my best to answer them as I kind of go along and show off some of the new things in this year's game. We won't cover everything that's new, but we'll cover a lot of the good stuff. One thing is that there's been a lot of work in terms of the UI, in terms of making things a little simpler to find, some extra news. So I'm going to go here on the left side. You can see the menu's changed a little bit over there. The menu at the top for the teams has changed to make it look a little bit better. At the bottom section of this gray area on the left, which is your information, it contains the link to your office, the inbox, the meeting, press conferences, trading players, signing free agents, your alerts, and an in-game notepad. You'll see your team logo here. Anytime you click that, you can go back to the dashboard for your team. And then we've put some quick links here too for the coaching staff, the roster, the depth chart, and your team strategy. You can see the icons correspond to those ones here at the top area. So no matter what screen you're looking at, if you want to quickly get back to some of your own areas, you can do it just like that now. On the dashboard screen here, we've changed up some things. Put the team leaders in here so you can see, a visual representation of your players. These buttons, or these boxes down here, also have clickable information. So if I want to click on the morale one, I can see who has any morale issues, injury, same thing. You can click on the player to pull up his player card right there. The draft picks that you have coming up are shown here. Your expiring contracts. If you click on this, it'll take you to the contract screen. So all sorts of useful information that you can, you can find things a lot easier, and that's sort of been a goal of mine on every screen to, to be able to, to make it better for you to where you're going through. Sorry, I was distracted there. Jeannie says he can't see the screen. Is anybody else having difficulty with the screen? Is it showing on my end? Well, I guess while I wait to see if anybody else is having difficulty, I can discuss some of the other things. One thing I want to say is a huge shout out to JLemon43. Okay, other people are seeing it, so I'm not sure what's going on your end, Jeannie. But shout out to JLemon43. He did a face pack for the game last year, which added new faces to the game, and I contacted him. I reached out to him and said, do you mind if I put some of these faces in directly into the game to expand the player face group in there? So he said no problem. So that was really cool, and I've added a whole bunch of those faces in, so you'll have a wider variety of things and faces and stuff like that. There's also new team owner faces. Let me click on my team info screen real quick. You can see we've replaced the ones that were in the game forever since I think they were there since the original version. So I've updated that. And there's going to be a whole bunch of these little things that you're going to come across while playing the game that, it's not something that's going to be a bullet point, a headline, and talking about the new stuff. But um, I think you'll appreciate a lot of these things that you come across. All right, so let's start talking about some of the big things we got going on here. So first of all, in terms of the team roster, we've added the ability. I have to update this, I see, because it says 0 out of 2. There's an ability to have 3 two-way players now to match real life. And on the depth chart, one of the things that was frustrating to me, I guess, in playing was using the store lineup option would store how you have the matrix set, but it wouldn't change the depth chart. And I don't know, it was a little confusing to work with it to make it do it. But now when you click to restore your lineup, it'll also restore your original depth chart. So it should be much easier to have kind of your basic lineup, and then I would store that. And then as you get injuries, you can move players around, and you can easily switch who's playing the minutes. But when you get injuries and then to come back from that, the player's healthy, you can do the restore lineup option, and it should reset not only your sub matrix but also your depth chart. So again, it's to me that was kind of an important thing to do, because it always took me a lot of extra time after you fix the sub matrix. Then you had to pull players back up and down the depth chart so the starters were in the right spot and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that issue should be taken care of now. One of the big things here is in trading. So let's pull up the trade screen. I've also added, I've had the game default to the overall ratings instead of the stars. I think more people use that, more people like that. Players who, we have come over to our games who are disgruntled with, other games that are heavily on, they're used to seeing the OVRs for players. So I'm not fighting it anymore. We're going with it. You can still choose when you set up the league to not use that and to use the stars instead. But I think most people are going to want to use the overall number. That's displayed better here on the trade screen, but a lot of new stuff to go over here. One thing you're going to see is the salary rules button. It's on the trade screen. It's on the finances screen. It's on the free agency screen. And let's get into that. This is one of the biggest areas that has changed in the game, and it's the aprons. We kind of talked about this a while ago on Discord, but the apron is redefined how things are working in pro basketball now. And not only have we put it in, but I've put the screen in to help you understand and have a reference point in the game. So really there's 4 categories that your team will fall under: either under the salary cap, over the salary cap, over the first apron, and over the second apron. So each apron is a set salary amount. And when you do your owners meeting and stuff like that, you're going to say, hey, I want, I'll keep it under the first apron, I'll keep it under the cap, whatever you're going to say and get approved by your ownership. But these are the things that you're going to have to contend with. So if you are under the salary cap, when you go to sign free agents, you can use any available cap space. You also get the room exception. So in the past, we just had the mid-level and the low exception for free agency. And it didn't work quite like real life. And some things don't, because they have to be gamified because they're so complicated. So the low exception is gone, and the mid-level exception is changed. And now we're going to do the mid-level exception, the room exception, and the biannual exception. And there's different levels of the mid-level exception, as you can see on the screen. So it's really good to have this screen that you can reference, because again, we're going for realism. We're going to, try to make this work just like it does in real life as best we can. This also explains the trading salary match rules. So I know some people had issues with that in the past. They don't understand why the trade isn't legal. Now you'll have this as a reference point. So if you're under the cap, you can see the salary match rules: 200% of outgoing salary plus 250,000. If you're up to 7.25 million, outgoing salary plus 7.5. If you're between 7.25 and 29 million, 125% plus 250 after 29 million. Over the salary cap, you get the mid-level exception, and you get, which is a different amount than the room exception. Because obviously, if you're under the salary cap, you don't get the mid-level exception. You also get the biannual exception if you didn't use it in the prior year. So this is going to be a little bit of strategy add on your side, because you won't get the biannual exception every year. You'll have to decide which years you want to use that. You can see the salary match rules there. If you're over the first apron, you get a lower mid-level exception. You cannot do the sign and trade. And again, that's not, we have it kind of gamed into the game for sign and trade. And when you trade, you cannot take more salary back than you send out. And if you're over the second apron, no exceptions, no sign and trade. You can't take more salary back in the trade, and you cannot send out more than one salary in a trade. So if you put yourself into a situation where you're over the second apron, you are extremely limited in what you can do, operations wise, because you're basically just able to either re-sign your own players with bird rights, sign minimum level players, and you can't even aggregate, as they call it, salaries to make a trade. So you really, in building your team, you've got to be careful where you're hanging on these aprons at, because you do not want to end up severely handcuffing yourself. And this is what is going to be taking place in real life, and we don't know how it'll come out because it's new. So I don't know how teams will react. It'll be interesting to see how accurate long-term simulations are. Obviously, we won't know this year. It's going to take a few years of real life to see how teams react and how adverse they are to going over either one or both of these aprons. You can obviously see some effects already, like Golden State getting rid of Clay because they didn't want to go over that second apron for him. So it's going to add a whole new level of strategy. It's taken a lot of time to put that in this year. There's been a lot of work with the AI in terms of roster building and team building and things like that. And I think that you're gonna enjoy that, as you really have to dive in now and kind of pay attention to what your long-term plan is. You can always go to the finances page as well. If you sort here by the cap space, you can see who's over the second apron, who's over the first apron, what your next year situation looks like for payroll and cap space. If you go back to your own team and you look at the contracts page, you'll be able to see what your long-term situations are for every single player, as well as if you need help with what they are, what those options are, you can always pull up there. So we're trying to put as much help into the game, because there's not, I don't have the resources or the time to write like a huge help manual. So we're trying to make things in the game, in the screens, you can just reference quickly. So if you come across anything that you don't understand how it works or whatever, let me know. I want to do some tutorials. I want to do as much help in the game as possible, just to make it easy for everybody. Jeannie asks, how does the AI work with the aprons in the multiplayer leagues? It's going to work the same as in a solo player league with the teams that are controlled by the AI. They'll make the decisions that their ownership feels is best, and obviously each player can make their own decisions. The one thing I like about this, well, there's a lot of things I like about it, but the one thing that's cool is that, especially for a multiplayer league, if you have a situation where you're not playing, where you can get fired, there is really never a penalty for just running your salary through the roof. In real life, obviously ownership would say, hey, you can't spend that much money, you're fired. That happens in the challenge mode if you don't stick to the agreed upon salary things. But now, the higher you go, the fewer items you get or the worst items you get. You don't get as much mid-level exception, or you get no mid-level exception, and you can't make certain trades and things like that. So now there really is an in-game penalty, so to speak, for just blowing past the salary and luxury cap and past these aprons. So I think that will be a nice thing for multiplayer leagues as well, is that there's finally a little bit of you know of consequence if you just think you can acquire everybody and pay whatever salaries forever, because eventually you've got to deal with these other consequences now. You'll see when making a trade too, it will tell you your situation and the salary situation of the team you're trading with, so that you can know. Again, you're going to have to reference the salary rules thing, so you know how much salary they have to send out and what they can take, stuff like that. But that's why it's there. You'll get the hang of it. Don't worry about it. But it's much better than in the past, where you're maybe kind of guessing as to why it wasn't working right, or just clicking until it said it was cap legal. One other huge thing on this page that I'm sure you see the unprotected here is we have added pick protection for draft picks, and we've also upped the draft picks to 5 years in the future instead of 3. So you have more picks that you can trade. We've also added the ability to have 6 players or picks in a trade instead of 5. Allow you to to kind of have more opportunity to make deals. Your pick protections, if you pull on go over the trade help button, it will tell you the pick conditions. Draft picks can be traded with certain protections. So there is, for first round picks, you can do a top 3, a top 5, or a top 10 protection. But again, there's rules. You have to own your own pick in the following year, because if your pick is not conveyed, then the next one has to go. So you're going to have to, again, pay attention to what picks you have, things like that. There's also the ability to swap picks. So you can do a pick swap where you're getting the better pick, or a pick swap where you're getting the worst pick. So obviously first round picks only apply to the top 3, top 5, and top 10 protected. The pick swaps can be used for any picks. Again, it's a way to kind of expand trading. The AI is, again, I've talked about how difficult it is to make a realistic trading AI. So the AI right now very rarely will lean into the pick conditions in terms of proposing trades. So it's primarily a user option at this point, but as I work into it a little bit more, I will open up more for the AI to kind of use these conditions. But you certainly can in your trade options, and those are your options. So picks will be either unprotected. You can protect them against those situations of the top 10, or do a pick swap for better or worse. And again, if you need help, you can roll over the trade help. It will tell you what the conditions, and to add it, you set the condition first, and then you add the pick to the trade. And so as I added a swap with Golden State in this case for a second round pick, it automatically, you saw, added Golden State's pick to swap into the trade too. So you don't have to go down there and add that one. Strong Brad says, can I go into commissioner mode and force teams to trade protected picks? Yep, you can go into commissioner mode and force the trades and make any trades that you want to happen. Again, just in terms of the AI talking, trading with itself or sending trades to you, it's very cautious right now about using the pick conditions, because it's just another layer of immense complexity in terms of everything that's got to be in the trade. For first of all, trade value, and then trade legalities, especially with all of these. And I'll reference this page again, all of the salary rules now, in each team having its own trading rules that they have to operate on based on their positions. So it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, but it shows you that we've added this into the game and it's working, and it'll get, as with anything else that's new, we work out the issues as we go along, and then it's awesome. And again, if you're making trades in the commissioner mode, when you add players to the trade and stuff like that, the AI tells you which team has the advantage. So if you're trying to do it on your own and trying to make a fair trade, you can add items until it says the advantage none, and then you can see that that error message just popped up because my team is over the second apron, that I could not trade multiple salaries in this trade. So again, when you're talking about building your team, if you do go over the second apron, you have to you can't just keep piling salaries together to take another awesome player or something like that. You're going to have to manage that much more carefully than you did in the past. Let's see. Slam Adams says, are there features to support league customization, creating 16 team league and other fictional builds? There are a number of options when you go to create a league. It doesn't have to be a 30 team league. We can show you that real quick. So you have the option to obviously choose the default, which will give you the 30 team league with the modern day rosters. You can do, if you go fictional, we've got 30, 29, 27, 25, 23, 22, 16, 12, 10, 9, 8. You can put in whatever team names you want. You can do a historical replay if you want. And if you want to create your own database file, as long as you follow these league sizes, then you can create your own league if you want. There's help things here, links to download mods that the community does, all that kind of cool stuff. And Strongbad asks, can you expand and add teams to a custom league? You can expand. A lot of people don't know that the commissioner office exists, I think. So where you see your name, you can click that and click commissioner, and then you'll get this this screen here that has ability here to edit players and coaches and stuff like that. There's an option up here to expand the league. You have to run it in the game date of June 20th, and you can only expand if your league is 22 or greater, and from 30 you can expand to 32, and that's it. So if you expand from 22 on, it expands in the same way that the NBA did. So when two teams would come in, then you get two teams. If one team came in, you get one team. And then there's an expansion draft and all that kind of stuff. So you can do that. We've also added the ability on here, now that I'm here, to rename conferences and divisions. That was requested. So that is an option there. There's an option to realign teams on a 1-for-1 basis. That happens again. That's highlighted when you can use it. And there's a lot of other options here. So if you're not familiar with the commissioner screen, I would get familiar with it, because there's a lot of cool options here. And by the way, Brad, he says, I'm not going to ask too many questions. Ask all the questions that you want. Ask them here, ask them in Discord, ask them in the forums, on X, anywhere we are. Ask away. We've got a great community, and I'm happy to answer any questions to help people get more familiar with the game. So I always want to bring in new people. On the schedule screen, you're going to see an option here that says stop sim for breaking news. This is a new thing that I'm going to sim a couple games and see if I can get it to pop up. I've got the sounds muted for right now, so hopefully no sounds will play. But while you're simming, there it is right there, breaking news. So it tells you that Slavko Koslovic has suffered a big injury. He's going to miss 46 days with a broken finger. So I've added this kind of as a cool thing to pop up about big injuries or trades or unhappy stars, stuff like that. So if you don't want to deal with that, you can turn this off and leave it off, and it won't stop for the breaking news. But if you turn it on, I think it's kind of cool because it gives you, you know, a more a realistic picture. Something big happened in the league, and there's all the little pop-ups that come up that tell you about milestones and stuff like that. Um, but you know, I think that's really cool when something big happens to a big player. It'll cut in and let you know. There is also, if I click on this real quick, the 2D gameplay still exists, but also there's a Gamecast version back now. Some people didn't want to watch it in 2D, they wanted to watch it in the Gamecast mode, so that's back, and you can watch it with the circles moving around the screen as opposed to the players, if you like that sort of thing. So again, options for, you know, for you for whatever you like. There's also I've separated the game sounds from the ambient sounds. So if you don't want to have on the Gamecast, there's no ambient sounds. But if you're watching in the 2D and you don't want like the crowd noise, you just want the, you know, the swishes and the clangs off the rim, you can do that too. Let's see. Let me take a quick question here. I have two questions on NBA player ratings. What's the first date they are available, and what date during the NBA season are they updated? So, what we do is we provide, you know, a default roster right out of the gate, and that's how it stays. I'll update that as we go, but I don't update that, you know, as the season goes on for players who switch teams, because you know, it's meant to be a start of season point, and you know, people like, you know, they might want to start with that. So you can always go in and like I said, go to commissioner. If you start a league and a trade happens that you want to make happen in your league, you can go to commissioner, and then you can go to trade, and then you can force any trade that you want to happen so that you can change things around to be the way you like. But you know, as we start through first access and the season starts, I'll be tweaking, you know, ratings and stuff like that to, you know, especially for players who are in their second year or rookies, just because you don't really know how they're going to be until you see them in terms of game action. So there'll be updates for that as we go. But then once everybody's kind of settled in, that's usually it. I want to pull up a different save here. So while I'm doing that, Surfazi, congrats on the first access release. Thank you for that. Again, anybody who's interested, right after the stream ends, you'll be able to go to wolverinestudios.com and pre-order, and you'll be able to download this beta. And then and you can start playing. Again, on the forum, I ask you to read in the first access section kind of what we're doing in first access. There might be bugs, there might be crashes. You know, that's the point of first access, is to get some help in terms of finding this stuff, because I can only find so many things on my own and play through so many times on my own. But you know, and I appreciate all the help of the community in doing that. Draft classes have been improved in terms of kind of the variety of players, as well as heights for players. We've kind of updated that in terms of what is kind of the norm now for the average player heights across different positions, and also as well as to both improve the overall depth of the classes, and also in terms of if you scout with the I don't know if I can access it right now because this file is in the off season. Yeah, if you, oh, there's a draft scouting down there. If you do the deep dive option here, you'll get notifications for under and overrated players on the player card. So we've tried to kind of make that a little bit better too. So when you're doing the scouting points here, one thing that I did have to make mention of last year was that the points are per item. So it's not like if you do deep dive, you're not getting everything for 150 points. It's you only get the deep dive part. So if you want the ratings or the scouting report, you have to click all of the items that you want. It's not like this is like the super value meal that everything comes with. So just be aware of that when you're setting when you're setting your scouting options for the year. Let's see what else we got in the chart while I'm getting ready for free agency here. Sir Fozzie asks, has the sound been revamped at all? Not much, I'll be honest there, but again, that's something that could be changed and it could be added on, especially if there's some good ideas for it, or better sounds and stuff like that that's available. That's something you can even swap it out on your own too. If you go into the files and change the sound files, you can swap those out with anything that you like or that you have. But that is why we did separate the two sounds from like the ambient crowd noise. If you don't like that, you can just turn that off, but still have the basketball sounds, stuff like that. And the question is about how is the defense rating calculated? There's not a way I can explain that. There's a formula that takes into account multiple things, because there's no easy way to do a defense formula, but I think it does a pretty good job of it. I think when you see the ratings for the players overall, you'll agree that maybe it's not in the exact order you would say 1, 2, 3, 4, but the guys you think are the best defenders will, and that people generally accept as the best defenders in real life fall to the top of the list in terms of in terms of the defense rating. On the free agency screen, I just want to point out a couple things here too, because there's been a lot of time spent in this area. Now you'll see the cap space you have, as well as the amount that you have for the MLE and the BAE, which is not Bay, it's biannual exception. Obviously my team, remember, is over the second apron, so I would get no exceptions. You can click again to pull up those salary rules to remind yourself. When you go to have a meeting with a player, I think this screen is a lot better now than it was. Rather than having to click down for the responses, you'll just get the questions and the responses here so that you can see the different answers. You still have the option to offer the promises. You can see up here the signing factors, and if we did have exception money available and cap space available, you would see that money up at the top, and you see the overall and potential here. So all in all, this screen has gotten a lot of work to make it better for you, the user. And obviously a lot of work has gone into free agency because of the new apron rules. Teams in the past, I will say, did not really follow much of a plan in free agency, outside of being, if they were a contender, they would try to get big players. If they were a rebuilder, they wouldn't go for, old guys, stuff like that. Now with the aprons and stuff like that, teams are doing a much better job, I found, over long-term sims of staying within what their ownership allows in terms of spending. So you're gonna come upon situations where a team is gonna let go of a player or not try to re-sign him because they've already spent too much from the apron and stuff like that, where in the past you wouldn't really see that so much in the game. So I think in the past you would kind of tend to see teams just ballooning their salary over time, and maybe there wasn't a lot of teams with cap space. This so far is doing a good job with the AI is doing a good job in terms of having cap space, having a good distribution for the teams, for teams who have cap space, teams who are just over the cap, teams who are over that first apron, and then teams over the second apron. Again, this part is difficult because there's no real world, there's no real world data to figure out. So it's just going to be based on kind of how I think things will happen with teams over time. um, and it does provide for a fun a fun gameplay, which is the most important thing, especially in challenge mode. As you go into your office, you see what your goals are, um, and having to deal with those goals within the framework of those aprons, I think is a good challenge for players playing in challenge mode. There's also been a couple of other cool, just like upgrade features, like on the schedule. I've changed it so you can view the schedule in a block format, or you can go back to the list format if that's what you like. But it's kind of fun to look at it like this. The schedule games with the little trophy cup denote the in-season tournament games, which again you can turn on or off for your seasons, whatever, whether you like that idea or not. But just a lot of stuff like that you're going to come across, like, oh, that's cool. But the majority of the work definitely has been in changing the game to accommodate for these aprons and the new trading rules and trading picks and protections, and making sure teams operate in a realistic manner. So it's really been a focus on the franchise side of the game, which I think is really why people play art style games, just for a realistic experience there in franchise mode. One last question: do you consider player awards as part of the formula? Nope, it doesn't consider player awards. It's all statistically based, but it uses things like the number of shots they defended against, the point differential for for their defense. There's one or two other factors I don't remember off the top of my head, and then it gives a bonus. Obviously, it considers other things too in terms of the output of their defense, just the defense and the steal and block ratings, things like that. But it's based on like whatever defensive metrics I could find that sort of told a story about how the player defends. And again, it's very difficult to find things like that, but I used the statistical options that I could in based it as close to that as I could to come up with reasonable things. And I think when you see the output in terms of who it lists as the best defenders, I think the formula does a pretty good job of that. One other thing on the personality types, this is something I tried to add last year, tried to make it better this year. If you click on that question mark, you'll get the listing of what all the types are. And then each one tells you kind of the types that they get along with or that they don't get along with so well, or the characteristics that they don't. So this plays an important role in the game, and you can always access this from the player cards just by clicking that question mark and being able to see what what the different player types are, and things like that. Jeannie asks, is there a way an email can be sent after inviting rookies to work out for the draft? What would you want the email to do? Because after the draft or after the workouts, if you go back here on this email, that's for free agency. One of the emails lets you access, I think it's this one. It's just not available now because it's past the date. But one of the emails lets you access the workout screen again, and you can go back to it, and it will list all the players that you worked out there. So you can go right back to that screen. Just it just doesn't have the option to advance it again. So you do get that in your inbox, and you can go back and then see all the players that you worked out. Plus, during the draft, that information is there as well in the war room. When you click it, you'll see the results of whatever players that you did work out. So wow, that was a lot of talking. Yeah, in the MP League, you should get that as well, Jeannie. So yeah, like I said, a lot of talking, a lot of new stuff this year. I think that you're really going to be pleased with the game. It's really taken the best franchise mode experience there is and made it even better. And that's really the heart of these games, I think, to give you that realistic experience. So we're going to wrap it up now. Quick note about first access. Once the stream ends, it's going to take me a couple of minutes to turn on the web store and the download links and stuff like that. So just be patient over at wolverinestudios.com just for a couple minutes. In the forum, our community forum there, that's where the best place is. There's a first access forum. If you have crashes or bugs or things like that, you can post them there. There's also a thread already set up for suggestions. So if you can keep all the suggestions in just the one thread, that would be easy for me to find and go through. If they're small, if they're easy to deal with, I can get them in the game either before release or right after. If they're big, huge, game-changing suggestions, I just note them for the future. And again, a lot of the new ideas for each year's games comes from suggestions from the community. So do not be shy. Feel free to ask about any of the about any any questions you have, anything that you want to see into the game. Happy to take questions, take criticisms, anything that's positive and constructive and useful to help make the game better, we welcome. So that is going to do it. Thank you all for coming out to the stream. If you just joined later, you missed it, we'll put it on our YouTube channel. Also going to be trying to add those mini tutorials and stuff like that for our new players to the YouTube channel. And if you have suggestions on things you'd like to see, let me know. Also thinking about doing maybe an ongoing stream just playing through, just because it's sometimes if you watch somebody else play through, you get ideas on how things work, especially if it's me doing it, because I coded the game, so I should know how it works. But we might do that if there's some interest in doing that. So thank you again, everybody, for coming out. Give me just a couple minutes. www.wolverinestudios.com is the only place that we do the pre-order and the first access. The game will be available on Steam in hopefully about a week's time or so, as long as everything's going well here. And that's it. Thanks for coming out tonight. Go get ready to have a ton of fun with the game, and I look forward to everybody's feedback on the 25 version. So thanks again, everybody, and have a great night. Go get those credit cards ready, and I'll see you at wolverinestudios.com in just a minute.